Representative Lee, you're in the middle of your second biennium in the House. How have you changed as a lawmaker since you were first elected in 2016?
Since my first term in the legislature, I have learned to listen to both sides of the aisles and also to be more responsive to my constituents.
And you represent District 59A.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your district and the issues that are most important to your constituents?
So the most important issues for my constituents are education, public safety, and environmental justice, and that's what I've been focusing on this past year, and I'll continue to do so this upcoming year.
And have those issues changed or the concerns changed since you first decided to run for office, or is it more of the same?
It has. When I first ran for office, environmental justice was not one of the issues at the forefront for me, and it was actually at my first town hall where one of my constituents came over and was talking about how the environment is impacting her children's life and how that impacts our education system and our healthcare system. And so that really opened up my eyes to really looking at the issues that we see and to really approach these issues holistically and not, trying to address them one by one.
I read that part of your decision to run for office was to help marginalized communities to engage in democracy. Have you been able to make progress in this area in your time at the Capitol?
It's a work in progress since my time when I first started to this year, where we're still having town halls, engaging with communities, and oftentimes it's more of how could we get folks who are not traditionally at the table, or folks who may have other reasons why they aren't there, because they're working multiple jobs, or their work schedule may not be the typical schedule like ours or myself, where it's 9 to 5. And so just trying to figure out ways to connect with constituents is something that I'm still an ongoing process.
2020 is expected to be a bonding year at the legislature, and you're vice chair of the House Capital Investment Division. Were you able to hit the road as part of the House bonding tour? And if so, what did you take away from that?
Yeah, so we were able to travel throughout the state of Minnesota, over 3,000 miles, and some of the biggest takeaways is that there are critical infrastructure needs that we have throughout the state of Minnesota, and it was important for us to go into both Democratic and Republican districts to hear from the people of Minnesota to see when we make the decision next year, so it will reflect all of one Minnesota and not just picking special projects.
So everybody agrees that a bonding bill will probably be needed for next year, but its size will be a sticking point. What do you think makes sense?
So, something that myself and Chair Murphy has been advocating for is that, we have the debt capacity for a $3.5 billion bonding project, and that's our goals right now, trying to work towards that project. And, this is the legislature where we're going to have negotiations with the Senate and the governor, and so hopefully we'll have a robust project that will address some of the critical needs that we have in the state.
And I wanted to ask you about this. You're part of the People of Color and Indigenous caucus. Can you tell us about the posse and what the caucus, what are some of the things that they're working on?
So the posse caucus, right now, I believe there's 19 members of us, 14 in the House, 5 in the Senate. For us, we really want to look at some of the legislation that we have through a racial equity lens, and so just analyzing that and also being a voice for different communities, especially folks who identify as people of color or indigenous throughout the state of Minnesota. And over the last few years, we have been able to travel down to Rochester, to Warrenton, to St. Cloud, to areas where we don't necessarily represent, but there's a pretty sizable people of color or indigenous community there, to be a voice for them and to let them know that there are members over at the legislature who are listening to them, and we want to help address some of the issues that they are facing.